Greeting from the fish god. Excited to share another video with you today, and as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and we're always happy to get some feedback from our fellow fly anglers. Today we're going to be tying a Perdigon nymph. I've got in the vise a size 14 jig hook with a 3.3 millimeter tungsten bead. What makes the Perdigon nymph a little different than many of our nymphs is it will ride upside down. It will cut through the water column very quickly, get right to the bottom. It's been very popular with Euro nymphers because it does exactly what they need it to do. They can fish it on a tight line. Most of us old timers call it tight line nymphing. I've been tying versions of the Perdigon for years, but really only using the jig hooks in probably the last 7 years. You can tie them in an assortment of colors, and I encourage you to experiment with this really productive fly. Again, what we're going to do is go ahead and get this started. I've got the slot, and you can see the slot there. I'm going to tuck that slot forward and make it actually drop onto the angle of the shank that drops over to the eye, and rock it up. So I've got to prop that up. I can do that with some lead, or I can go ahead and start my thread here and just rock it up and lock it up. Rock and lock. That sounds like something we could do. So here I've got it rocked up. This is going to ensure that the weight is distributed above the hook shank, because the weight's going to flip it over, which is what we want. We want this to flip over right upside down, hook point up, weight towards the very front of the fly, so it will angle down and keep the hook point away from everything that's going to try and snag it. What I'm doing right now is I'm just laying a little base of thread. I'm going to go all the way to the back of the hook shank, and I know I'm at the back if it hangs down straight above the barb. I'm going to take some Coq de Leon fibers. This is a Coq de Leon feather. This is produced by Whiting. It's a great tailing material. It's a very stiff feather, and it really provides a nice tailing material. I'm going to take a few of the fibers off of this, and it's very sparse. You know, if you've got 8 fibers, that's probably more than enough. So if you look here in my fingers, I've got a group of fibers. They refract light very well. The way I pull them off the feather is to get them at a 90-degree angle and pull them off. I'm going to basically measure the length of the tail I want. I want it about a half a hook shank in length, give or take. And then I'm going to pinch it down here, do a pinch wrap. I'm going to put the thread between my fingers and pinch the thread, and then come down the back side of the hook, and I'm going to pull straight down. That'll put it right on top of the hook. I'm going to do another one, and then I can just wrap the rest of that forward, because I know it's going to be where I want it. Trim out those butts of those fibers, and you don't have to be super clean or anything like that. If there's a few hanging there, they'll wrap down when you most like them to. What I'm doing right now is covering up the other parts of the fibers here. I'm also going to throw one wrap underneath. the tips that become the tail. So it's going to go under the tail. This will splay the tail a little bit, and it will also help it ride up, which is we want that tail to be coming straight out of the back end. One of the little tricks and tips, and I'm using a Veevus 8/0 thread. If you counterclockwise spin the bobbin, which I literally gave it a push that way, and it's counterclockwise spinning, that thread is going to lay flat. And if I want to smooth out the body, I want that flat. So what I'm doing is every time I take a wrap over it, twist the thread one time. So if I wrap this all the way, all the time, it's going to be corded, and that's going to leave bumps. If I counterclockwise spin it, that thread is going to flatten out. Okay? And that's just a good thing to know. Counterclockwise flattens, clockwise ropes. And I'm just going to form a little taper here. To do that, I'm going to wrap all the way forward and then wrap part way back, and then wrap all the way forward, and then go a little further back. And everybody has a different way. I want this basically to be a carrot shape, but I want my thread to end up towards the tie-in point, which is directly above where the barb would be if there was a barb on this hook. This is a barbless hook. So I'm going to come all the way back. Here's where I'm going to tie in, and this is going to be pretty simple Perdigon. What I'm going to tie in is an interesting, and I've just now been using these. This is from Fulling Mill. These are, and let's see if I can get that to focus a little bit. It's a stripped quill. It's fluorescent yellow. You know, when you look at these coming out of the package, they really don't look fluorescent yellow, but they really are. And I'm going to hold one up. This is what I'm going to tie in. You can see it's real thick at one end, and it gets incredibly thin at the other. So if I'm tying something that is smaller than this, I'm gonna use a lot of the thin end. Again, this is a size 14 hook. I'm gonna come down a ways and tie that in. What I do to tie it in is I hold it at about a 45-degree angle between the hook shank and where the thread's coming down, and kind of tuck it up under. And then when I pull up, it'll get trapped. And that's one way to put it in there. If I really want it to be precise where I want it, I'm going to use a pinch wrap, lay it on there same way, pinch it, pull it straight down. It's in with one wrap. And then I'm just going to wrap this forward and cover up any of the material that's there. That's going to help build the taper again. If it doesn't appear smooth to me, which it doesn't right now, I'm going to counter spin my thread, smooth this out a little bit, maybe go back all the way back to the back tie-in right there. Cover up anything I don't really want to see. Come forward and end here behind the bead. I can trim that tag out, which I can't see, but the camera sees really well. Okay, I'm going to take a pair of hackle pliers, and this is a rotary style hackle plier. It really works well when you're working on either fine hackle or, in this case, a small quill, stripped quill. I'm going to go ahead and clip that on. Pull it tight, let it wrap around. I'm going to come around the back side here. Make sure I position it where I want it. And do open spirals. This yellow right now looks pretty dull. It's not going to look dull for long. We're going to use some UV fly finish. I'm using Loon, whatever your preference is. Solarez makes a great resin as well. And it'll really bring out the ribbing and the color and make this pop. And I'm going to bring this right up behind the bead and tie it off. So you notice I'm holding with my right hand, holding the quill straight up. I'm going to use my left hand to just basically throw a loop over, come back around and grab it, and throw one more over. And then I'll throw one in front, and that'll lock it in. Okay. And then trim out my excess. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and use some of this UV clear fly finish from Loon. This is a thin. What I'm going to do is just put a little dab on top. And if you get too much on, you can just touch it with your finger. It'll draw off the excess. What I've got on there right now is quite a little blob, but I'm going to spread it around with a pin. And this is just something I got from my wife sewing. It's just a little pin that I can get a hold of. I keep on a magnet on my vise all the time. And I'm going to spread that with the back side of that pin all the way around it. This is going to make the fly very durable, and it also serves the purpose that it reduces the friction as this is going through the water column. That's one of the reasons this goes down so fast, is there's very little friction from the material. And, you know, having a tungsten bead, of course, helps dramatically. But that really does help you get down through. Now I'm going to hit it with a UV laser light. And the laser is a blue light. And you can see how that suddenly, boy, those colors just jump at you. And I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around this. And it takes very little. This is now dry as a bone, which that's one of the other one of the other nice things is you can finish this fly. It'll be incredibly durable, and that again is dry. So it's ready to go. You could fish it at this point just like that. We're going to put a little hot spot on there, and I've got a little Arizona diamond dub. And this is hot pink. Get that around where it can be seen. There we go. It's hot pink. It's Arizona diamond dub. It gives it a little bit of flash, a little bit of attractiveness. Again, I encourage you to experiment with these materials, especially on these Perdigon nymphs. You'll find yourself going through a lot in a day, and one day a color might be everything the fish always wanted, and the next day it might not. So having an array of colors and sizes, you know, they're easy enough to tie, So that shouldn't be a detriment to you, because as you can see, I mean, it just adding that little hot spot. Now I got fluorescent yellow and I've got hot pink dubbing, and you can trim that down a little bit. If I'd have dubbed it a little tighter, I probably wouldn't have to. Will it make any difference? Probably not. But I'm just going to go ahead and tie this off now. That's an interesting, there we go. I don't know what that was. All right. And then I'm going to throw a little whip finish in here. Get this taken care of. You could use orange thread and put a hot spot right behind the pink, you know, between the pink and the bead. And that, you know, there's several flies and patterns that are specific to that. Where you have that little hot spot. And I'm going to show you a pattern here real quick. And these are some that we were tying the other night. Just the bottom one here is called a Duracell. The one above, I'm trying to remember the name and I can't. I should. Oh, it's called a blowtorch. So you see it's got a hot orange tail. It's got some sparkle ribbing. It's got a pink collar. And it's got a hot spot with orange thread. You know, and being able to tie these nymphs, like I said, they're real quick. They're painless. Having an assortment of them in different sizes and different colors really will add to your arsenal and give you some options. They get right down to the bottom. Something that you can really, if you're a Euro nympher, you already understand. If you're a standard fly fisherman, an old school, I should say, fly fisherman like myself, you know, this just adds a little bit of something. Give it a shot. It's really a super nymph that will add quite a bit to your fishing day. It'll add a lot of numbers of fish. This is probably one of the flies that has this style of fly, Perdigon, will produce a lot of fish. It's really a beginner tie. It's real easy. Doesn't take a lot of time to tie it. It's a staple. We would call it a fish god staple. They're always present in a box, and they'll get used. Again, this is Bill Frangos, the Fish God. You can find me on YouTube at FishGod1. I want to thank you very much for watching and subscribing. If you have any comments, questions, abuse for that matter, I'll take it. Bring it. But keep watching. We'll talk with you later. Thank you. I hope this video was helpful. Have a good day.